This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
Hi, I'm Diane Silva. Welcome to Positive Momentum TV. Today we're going to continue our conversation about Alzheimer's and caregivers with Carol and Bev. They are representing the Alzheimer's Association as they are facilitators in actually an Alzheimer's support group I attend. So we're going to kind of continue our conversation. I don't remember exactly where we left off, but we're going to go and talk more about the caregiver side of things and how us caregivers really need to take care of ourselves. And we're going to go with an analogy they do on the aircraft. Put your oxygen mask on first, otherwise you're not going to be able to help the person next to you. So
how true, how true. As we said in the first segment, this really is a disease that affects the whole family. And the sooner the whole family, as hard as it is, can accept the fact that something is wrong here, this is not normal aging, the person does have a disease, they have physical symptoms that they cannot control.
Right.
We may get angry at them for not paying attention, but they can't help it.
Right.
As soon as we accept that and get them the help they need, the better off it's going to be for everybody.
Right.
They're going to have to find a new normal.
Yes.
And that's hard. I think in a lot of the support groups, it's tough when it's your child, it's tough when it's your parent, but I think when you're used to having a spouse that you make decisions with, and you're used to going out to eat with, visiting families, all the things that, the finances, everything that you're, as a part of your normal everyday living, and all of a sudden they have the disease. And as a caregiver, I think that's really a tough one, because you do have to find a new normal. And sometimes you're not living with the child or with the parent, but when you're living with that spouse, it becomes a new normal that you have to find and discover how you're going to deal with it.
And that new normal may change daily.
And
oh, it does.
Yes, it does.
Hourly at times.
Yes.
And I agree that it is definitely hardest on that person that's usually the spouse, but that's actually been living with them.
Right.
But it means really a new role for anybody in the family, because suddenly children become parents to their parents, and the spouse becomes a parent to the spouse. And so on, and you have to make decisions for them. And it's really hard to take on that new role and still honor the person with dementia.
Yes. And it's difficult from a caregiver side, a friend side. You know, I've had my mother-in-law who's in a very nice memory care facility right now. Her friends are hesitant to go visit her because they're not sure how to handle the situation, or what, how are they going to deal with this?
It becomes a lonely disease.
Yes, it does. It's like, and go ahead.
And, well, it's lonely. I like that phrase. It's lonely for everybody involved.
Yes, it is.
It's lonely for the person with the disease because they're the only one that knows exactly where they're living right now anyway.
Right.
But it's also lonely for the other caregivers that have accepted the disease. Suddenly their friends don't stop by and just chat anymore. This disease is not contagious.
Right.
They're not going to catch it. And if they say something wrong, the person with dementia is going to forget it in a few minutes anyway, because that's the nature of the disease. You have to keep visiting them, and you have to keep doing things with that caregiver. Super, super important.
Right.
You're talking about it, and I just wrote the word grief down there. It's it's the same way you are grieving the loss of whatever your normal situation was. You're in a grieving process, and that when you said something about people don't know what to say, when someone loses a loved one, they don't know what to say. With this disease, people don't know what to say. And you start losing your own friends as a caregiver. Your
At a time when you need them most.
Exactly,
Right.
yes. And yes, it changes everything. And then maybe you can't even get out like you did before. So now you're confined to home when you used to do these activities, and your whole life has changed too, unless you get some help.
And that's where you guys come in and the support group comes in. One of the things I've learned while going to school to become a therapist is the first question, one question you can ask that's open-ended, and that person will then have full control of the conversation from there. Just ask them, how are you holding up? They can say fine, and you can move on. They could say, and that gives them the opening to talk about the situation. And this goes with any kind of grief. And when you're talking Alzheimer's grief, we're talking unresolved grief. It's not like, okay, that person is gone, and now we can, and I don't mean to sound like it's very upbeat, but now we can move on and start healing from this. No, we're dealing with this day in, day out, moment by moment. My husband gets 24 calls inside of an hour, and each time that phone rings, he's dealing with a different form of this unresolved grief.
And you jump.
Yes, we jump, and
Your tension goes up because of the situation.
During the Reagan era, when he was diagnosed, when President Reagan had Alzheimer's disease, the term became the long goodbye. And that is so true, because you say goodbye to each little skill, and those are losses that you suffer all the time.
I know they are, and you're losing the relationship with that person. It's changing. So, there is a loss. There's a feeling of a loss. You've lost your ability to be able to just be free and live the life you want to live, because you're taking care of that person, the person with Alzheimer's, as well as yourself. So they're consuming all your time. When your friends come around, you're just either exhausted or, I can't do this today, I have to take care of this. They stop coming around, as you mentioned. And some people look at it, it's contagious. Like, I'm getting divorced. Oh my God, I can't talk to you because what if I get divorced, or what if, whatever. It's not a contagion. We need each other the most.
Absolutely.
And some of the ladies have talked about being a married widow.
Yes.
And they're married, but this person is no longer in their lives. And I think you lose not only today, but your dreams for tomorrow. Yes. I wanted to retire and travel like this cute little couple down the street, and this was all is in my plans. And as soon as we retire, we were going to do this and we were going to do that, and just have leisurely days of whatever you had in mind. And the next thing that that's not going to happen, and you're struggling with that, and with your new norm.
Yeah, I can't stress the support group enough. I can't stress the fact of contacting the Alzheimer's Association. I can't stress enough, listen, whatever friends will listen to, get a therapist, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. And sometimes you just have to unplug the phone.
Yes.
There's.
And what did you say earlier, Carol, that we didn't want to forget is to make sure you have your power of attorney and all your legal paperwork in place? Go ahead.
Well, I putting it in a framework, we're so busy taking care of the person and taking care of our homes and things like that, and then add to that all this paperwork that needs to be done. Because if the powers of attorney and the will and all of those things are not in order, then it's a much more difficult process to get the guardianship, the conservatorship, and to still be able to make the decisions for that person.
And if Medicaid enters the picture, because this wasn't a long-term disease, something that you planned for, and the finances may not be there, that's a long process too, and you do need professional people. It's so many things anymore take that extra professional or advisor to help you get through the paperwork and the process. And you definitely need, as a caregiver, need to seek out assistance and help for that.
Yeah, you need someone to fight with you.
Exactly.
And sometimes even fight for you, because you're so exhausted from dealing with the emotional component of this, and this will tear you down. It's a constant stress. And no, I am not saying you love this person with all your heart and soul, whether they're your spouse, your sister, your husband, whatever the relationship you have. But think about, you're just on constant alert. You're always on. And you don't think of, okay, I need to get a hold of an attorney because I have to. I really don't want to place this person, but I need to consider it because you know, and you're waffling back and forth, and because it is such a traumatic decision. You know,
And we have seen caregivers
Yes.
die before their loved ones. And at one of the
Yes.
recent meetings I was at, they said that kind of typically you add 10 years, or take off 10 years of your life, I guess you should say that way, take off 10 years of maybe your expected lifespan going through this caregiving process.
well, you're constantly under duress, you know, and when I'm saying that, I'm talking, you know, like I said, you're always on. You know, you're not just taking care of your own life, you're taking care of theirs. You're juggling, you know, I've experienced bosses and organizations who are less than compassionate, you know, so their pressure is on, oh, this person keeps calling you, this person. Oh, how do you tell somebody who can't remember not to call you to not call you?
Yes.
And
You
it's
know-
a business line that you need to keep open, that you
Right.
can't just block it, yes.
Right, and then for them it's an emergency. For you, you're going, you know, I will get you toothpaste later, I promise. And they're going, I need toothpaste. And then they'll call back, you know, 400 times. Well, that's an
To remind you.
exaggeration.
But not much of an issue.
No, because my husband, you know, this is his mother we're talking about, and I do apologize. But, you know, we've had 25 calls inside of an hour.
Yes.
And then she'd get really
And
upset.
does she even know she's made 25
No.
calls?
No.
Because in her mind, nothing is resolved.
Right.
So she's not even sure she's made those.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've compounded with this being on task all the time, and you don't get a good night's sleep because you might have a wanderer, you have to adjust the locks in the doors, you might have to hide the knives, you might have to take the knobs off of the
Medications.
stove. People have taken extra medication, you need to hide those and dole it out. The responsibilities become huge, and trying to keep a step ahead of what they're trying to do at all times is a real task in itself, and then you're doing it on even less sleep.
Right, and even, I will say, even once they're placed in a facility, and please also, go look at the facilities. I used to do this when I was, my kids were little. I would go visit all the child care providers I was interested in looking. I would narrow it down to 3, then take them with you. And find which one's most comfortable. Don't take them with you to all of them. And if you're not comfortable with doing that, take them to the one that you really want to take them to and see how they respond. Yeah, they're going to be kind of hesitant, they might be resistant. Do what you have to do. Because
Do it before you need it, because
Yes.
you may not be able to get in the place that you actually thought was the best place for your loved one. And you may have an emergency or something comes up and you've got to put them in right away.
Yes.
And you're going, where am I going to place him?
That's what happened with us, you know, and it's even when the first signs of, or you're not sure you're ready to place them, you know, for your sake as well as theirs, get everything taken care of ahead of time. You can put them on a list, and then, oh, we're not ready yet, and have them put
Sure.
back on the list.
Exactly.
We can do that. That part of it's traumatic in and of itself. Again, take care of yourself. Find someone to be your backup. Shut your phone off. You know, chances are you're not the only one they'll ever call, but if they can't get a hold of you, and they're going to get upset. You know, as long as they're safe, shut your phone off and let them go to the next person in line. You know, with my
Yes.
mother-in-law, she's in a facility. We know if it was urgent, we know what number would come up on the caller ID. You know, if it's her number, we know chances are, you know, we can just call the facility and say, you know, hey, we're going to be offline for a while, keep an eye on her. Call another sibling, call another somebody else saying, okay, we're shutting down for the weekend. We need some time off. We need respite. You know, and he has yet to really do that.
And respite's a good thing. Most of these facilities will take your loved one.
That's right.
So you can go and take a trip. I mean, you can hire. There are companies that will
Right.
send someone out even 24 hours coverage
Right.
for you if you don't want to place them. But if you need to get away, and some people do, they need to take a trip with their loved ones. Or perhaps there's a wedding in the family. Even as sad as can be, another funeral for someone.
Right.
And sometimes it's not always appropriate to take that person with
Right.
you. And if you need to go, then you need to cover yourself and not feel guilty about it. And that's probably part
That's
of the trouble
toughest
too.
part is that
Not
guilt.
feel guilt.
Guilt
Yeah.
is a huge, huge factor, and a lot of people feel guilty if they're not visiting their loved ones once they've placed them.
Yes.
But the idea is you've placed them there so that they are in a safe place, so that their needs are met, and if you don't go every single day, that's okay.
Right. And that needs to be really drilled in, because otherwise you're still on. And whether or not, you know, as long as they're safe, they're in good hands, they've got help nearby if they need it. If they're in a facility, I'm not saying permanently turn off your phone, you know, disconnect your doorbell, whatever you have to do, but really take care of yourself, because you're no good to them when they call and you're just really short-tempered, or you hear that phone ring and you cringe, or you want to just curl up and cry. You're not any good to anybody, including yourself. So really, put that oxygen mask on yourself.
Yes.
Go to a support group. You're going to see a bunch of bobbleheads there, because they're all going to go, yeah, we get it.
And they're very typical when you go visit them. You may have just been there earlier in the morning, just yesterday. Where have you been?
Exactly.
I haven't seen you for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And that is a very typical
Yes.
response. So they're not going to know. And if they're going to say, when you're going to come back, there's the fiblets again. Say, I'll be back tomorrow. And if you can't make it, then don't feel guilty if something comes up, because they're not going to remember if you've been there or not.
One of the things we do to help, I was told that this will just be conversation starters, but this has been a lifesaver. Every time we take her out to visit come with us, we take pictures. And we put them on a board with the date and what the event was. We also have a memory book we write little notes in. And this at least keeps her entertained, knowing, I mean, she's got boards, at least right now she has 3 boards full of pictures for the last 9 months of stuff that she's been involved in. So when she says, when I never saw you, I said, okay, look at this one, look at the date on that picture. And at least it's a way to see, you're in this picture. It's not that.
And does that work? Because there's another thing. Reasoning doesn't always work.
No, reasoning never works.
But pictures are a valid thing, so maybe that will sink into some degree. But the reasoning just doesn't always make it.
Right. So I use the pictures, if nothing else, as a conversation starter. Well, see, your daughter was here in September. When? Really? Yeah, look at, there's a picture, and I can say, okay, go to your left, you know, I know, go to the table, look to the left, there's that board, it's at the bottom middle of the picture. Okay. Oh, really? That is so cool. You know, and it just shifts the conversation, if nothing else. It may not jar a memory, but it's going to give me an out. You know, kind of like we talked about, you know, kind of meet them where they are. And one of the things, we're supposed to pick up my mother-in-law this afternoon to go to a birthday party. Well, A, it's snowing out, and B, you know, she called me 4 times this morning, and she goes, you know, I went, how am I getting there? I said, well, first I said, you're going to walk. You know, I was joking.
Yeah.
You know, oh, well, how far is it? Like, well, you should have started yesterday. You know, so that kind of lightened it. The next time she calls us, you know, are you guys going to, how am I getting there? I said, I'm sending a dog sled. You know, and she goes, well, is there snow there? I said, no, they're going to be on roller skates. You know, just something to help entertain me. It diffuses the situation, you know, and I can get off the phone quickly.
Yes.
You know, it lightens the mood. Use humor. Use whatever you have to. You can, you know, don't out and out, you know, well, I'm not, you know, get grumbly with them, because then they catch that, and sometimes they're calling they're grumbly. And then, oh, those are just not pleasant situations.
Sometimes you can even get up, walk out, and come back in and say, hi, Mom, or something, and that first conversation has been forgotten, and you can start all over again.
Right.
If they get hooked on something, that loop, sometimes that's difficult to break. That might not do it, but sometimes you can just walk away and come back. And I don't ever try anymore to play guessing games. You said you had a strategy for trying to figure out where they are.
Right.
I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's good if you just come in and say, hi, Mom, I'm Bev, or whatever it is, and don't let them guess. Remember I came back, or I was here yesterday, remember something.
Never say remember.
You know, you can just, if you feed them some information, then sometimes you're better off than making them be under test all the time. It's, where are you right now?
And it's hard to remember sometimes, because again, as a caregiver, and even though they're in a facility, you are still their caregiver. It's just somebody's taken over the primary, you know, okay, I'm going to give them a pill. You're still the one they're going to go to. You're still, go ahead.
Well, and putting them in that facility allows you to again become a family member and not just the caregiver.
Right.
Because when my mother was then in the nursing home, I helped her with certain things, but I could again become the daughter.
Right.
or my father could become the husband. And you didn't have to always be that one that was trying to figure out where they were and help them and do things for them. And it is so important to let them, they've lost so much of their individuality, of their personhood, with all the memories of that last 20, 30, 40 years. It's so important to let them keep what dignity and memory they do have.
Right, and that's another reason why you need to take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself and you're short with them and you cut them off and you're not giving them everything that you could possibly give them, you're upsetting yourself as well as them, and the relationship with yourself and with them starts to deteriorate. And there's something I really want to touch on, which is it's kind of sensitive, so please.
Sure.
There is this feeling amongst some of us caregivers who go, it's not that I want this person to die.
Oh, yes.
But it's going to be a relief and a really bad time when they do. You're kind of wanting them to be out of their misery and you to be out of yours. At the same time, you don't wish death on anyone. So, there's that inner turmoil as well. And I'm not sure if you guys could give us some pointers on how to manage that, because we're not going to normally be honest about this and forthcoming, but there's some of those secret, I just wish this would go away, and then you feel guilty because you just thought that.
And that, I think all of us go through that feeling. And that's another reason why attending a support group, in my own opinion, is very, very important. You do wish, I went through that same thing, wishing I am a woman of faith, and I would pray, God, why haven't you taken her? I have given her to you, why haven't you taken my mother? And the time wasn't ready, and I needed to learn that lesson, that he's the one that's in charge. Then you feel a certain relief when death does come. And again, it's only those people who are going through it who are going to understand. We do have a number of people who have lost their family members and continue to come to the support group because they know that that support group understands the relief there is when it's finally over.
And some of them don't want to let go, and they go to a heroic means to keep their loved one alive. And I think it's a balance, because they do get into a situation where they fail to thrive. I know that was on my mother-in-law's death certificate, failure to thrive due to Alzheimer's. They forget how to walk, they forget how to eat. Of course, they've already forgotten how to bathe and dress themselves, and so there's a number of things that they're in the process of losing all the time, and as they're losing that, you can see them drifting away from you. And perhaps that, even more like you said, is when they need that support group, to have somebody know that this is normal, that you're feeling this way, and normal as to what you're seeing, this decline happening.
Well, we have just a few minutes left. If you guys could give anybody any kind of advice or whatever, what would you pass along? Pick it up.
Well, I'm going to go back to my favorite saying, and Carol and I were talking about it on the way here. You do the next best thing. You make a decision now, if it's to place them or not to place them. Whatever decision you make, however you're taking care of you, with the information you have at this moment, make a decision. But remember, if tomorrow things changed, or 2 weeks down the line things change, give yourself permission to make a different decision. That's okay, because if you have new information, you might do something different. So that would be my bit of advice for everybody.
Carol?
And mine would be to seek help.
Okay.
Join an Alzheimer's support group. Let the neighbors and the other relatives know what's going on.
Okay.
Tell them what you need from them.
Okay.
But seek help and take care of yourself. You're not going to be any good to them unless you do.
Okay, perfect. I love that advice, and it's very, very appropriate, because if we don't put our own oxygen mask on, there's no us to take care of anyone
That's
else. You know, you can't draw from an empty bucket, basically.
Yes.
You know, we come up with all these metaphors. So for those of you with dealing with people with Alzheimer's, our sympathies We understand, we get it. We will put the Alzheimer's email or webpage information on the screen so you can contact them. If you have any questions, they're a great source. And even if your loved one doesn't have Alzheimer's, they'll be able to point you in a direction where you can get help with whatever. There's also the aging. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that even though it's called the Alzheimer's Association and it's an Alzheimer's support group, most of those other forms of dementia overlap so much that we
That you're
get
welcome
it.
there too.
Yes.
Right. So it's a good place.
And
to
there is a
start.
1-800 number too. So
Okay,
for
so-
24 hours a day, you can get a hold of somebody if you're really needing to talk.
We'll get that information put up on the screen for anybody who needs help. Go ahead and contact us at support@positivemomentum.net if you have any questions or have suggestions for other shows. If you want to talk to Carol or Bev, we can get you to them, or we can get your information to them so they can contact you. Again, we'll have the Alzheimer's support information on the screen as well. You have a wonderful day. Thank you all for being part of this show, and I wish you the best of luck, and take care of yourselves